Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are a couple of the amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out. This one is called Love Initiation, Learning the Language of Soul. And you guys, this was a special project. Our authors traveled from all over the world to Egypt, where we went and spent 2 weeks together exploring sacred sites with Egyptologist Emil Shaker and his phenomenal team and guides. This was a transformational experience, and the book that we're creating is going to have an extra special, amazing energy for our readers. So before I introduce our authors to you today, I need to say a huge thank you to our lead authors of this project, John Mercedes and Julianne Santini. You guys, the vision you had for this book and everything about it was so huge. And you began the project, I don't know, more than a year beforehand, curating a very intentional energy with who you were bringing in and how the trip was going to go down. And even for our hundreds of supporters all over the world who sent energy to us during the trip and through the writing process. I mean, this project was other level. And so my thank you is big to both of you today. So, who do I have here in my Zoom room with me today? Emily Atlantis Wolf is a professional healer and retreat leader who unites mystical teachings and practical tools to empower you to heal chronic pain and clear emotional blockages so you can live a life of ease and pleasure. And Christine Nguyen is here with us, the owner of Transformational Healing Arts, where she is a guide for her clients to heal through deepening awareness and presence with intuitive acupuncture and energy work. Ladies, I am so super excited to see you again and to be here talking about this amazing book and this trip and all that we are creating together. Atlantis, I want you to start the party off today. Tell us about the chapter that you wrote for this project.
Thanks, Laura. So the chapter that I wrote is chapter 3. It's called Hija, Abuela, Madre Mia, which means daughter, grandmother, and my mother, or mother mine. And I wrote it because I am in a lineage of strong women, but I don't have any aunts. I don't have any sisters. My grandmothers are both on the other side. I don't have any girl cousins by blood. It's just me carrying the line of women and my daughter. And I got to thinking about that when I was going to Egypt because I was going obviously far away from my daughter. And it just got me to think about family and lineage and stories. And my stories might die with me and they may just be passed to her. And so I wanted to sort of explore that concept of what if by me telling my stories, it's a way to keep my family alive. So I don't feel sad because a lot of people, when they find out, they think, oh, that's really sad. But I'm very connected to them in spirit. And I wanted people to see more of an experience of when you're connected, it's like they're still alive.
Hmm. I had some moments in this just thinking about this topic while I was gone because I guess being so far away from your family makes you think about that. And there was lots of reasons I was thinking about that, about my daughter specifically as well.
Mhm.
Um, have you changed the way you're functioning since you got home because of that?
Absolutely. It was just the kind of trip where there's no way you could be unchanged, is my feeling, because it was just such a big trip. And I think I've really found myself sort of settling into another level. I felt very comfortable on a world stage, meeting other people, doing ceremonies that were large and at the Sphinx and in the great temple of Cheops. And it was interesting to see myself expand into that area and then come back home and say, this is a great place to sort of hang out, but I really want to travel and expand again and again. So I felt connected to myself in a different way and therefore connected to my family in a deeper way as well.
So, give us just a brief sneak peek of the practice you're helping us with in this book.
So the practice is really something that I like to help people to just connect with the spirits that are available to them. So, in that way, you can always imagine a setting, whatever the setting is, if you find a familiar setting, and then set it up for the person that you're trying to connect with. So, if you used to have coffee with your grandmother, set up in your imagination a time to have coffee and set up the perfect situation and fill in all your senses. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What did you have to eat? How did you make the coffee? What kind of coffee? What did you put in it? And then when you have that setting in your imagination, just invite them in to that experience and then see what happens. You may see them, you may hear them, you may just feel their presence, but it's a way to reconnect to people that isn't so complicated. A lot of people think it has to be complicated to get a hold of your ancestors, but for somebody who you have their DNA or their imprint or you're real close with them, it's actually really easy to get reconnected to them at any time and learn what it's like on the other side and learn things you didn't know about them while they were alive.
I love that. I might have to have some lunch with Grandma DeFranco just for the focaccia, honestly. Like,
Absolutely.
that might need to happen. Atlantis, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
All right, Christine, tell us about your amazing chapter.
My chapter is called Beyond the Words, and I chose that not necessarily because it was related to the Egypt trip. It was more the idea of like, what was your love initiation? And I had a hard time thinking, well, what could it be? Because there have been so many instances in my life that have like kind of cracked me open to something larger in terms of awareness, healing, connection with other people was a big thing for me in my life. So I kind of thought the story of me going to this seminar was about something that just massively cracked me open, as you'll read, and and it got me thinking about, because I've been really exploring, like, well, how do you cultivate connection and meaningful um, relationship with other people, and so my chapter is about like it's a way of being. How do you cultivate this way of being and this consciousness and this um there's something inside of a presence that we each have inside of ourselves if we can access that. And if you can access that, it can be so incredibly profound, not just for yourself, but it can impact a space. And so in a nutshell, that's what it's about.
I'm remembering one of the scenes that you described, and it was a part that I loved in your chapter. I of course, am going to get the words a little bit wrong, but you said something about the dirty hippies, I'm pretty sure. And like, I loved it so much because it called me out too. Like, and that's what we're doing for each other when you all really step up to the plate with those vulnerable scenes of your life and those ones that broke you open, like you said, we recognize ourselves in them and it's like, oh man, like, yeah. But that one scene, I could feel the discomfort. And I wonder what you might want to add about that scene and just helping people understand that that discomfort might be the place they could lean toward to have a transformation of their own.
Totally. When I think about that, my entrance into that scene, the dirty hippies, like they smell different, and this whole thing. I mean, obviously, I had a judgment about it, and if I was gonna like really break it down into like very broad terms, I was contracted. I was in a state of just very. It was a contraction. I was narrow inside of my perspective, and I could only relate to my environment and to people from that perspective. And the cracking open was like, oh man, like none of that is actually true. It's projection, you know? Um, I have a dirty hippie inside of myself as well. So
Don't
it's
we
it's
all?
just this um it's it's like opening up, seeing and becoming aware of our contracted state inside of ourselves and where that stuckness might come from, which can be like a whole thing to unwind. But once I got beyond that, it was like, oh my gosh, like a whole world opened up. I don't know if that answers your
It
question.
does, and it's profound awareness. Um, okay, speaking of more golden nuggets of awareness, Christine, I'm going to ask this of you first. What's the most important thing you want people to know about the language of their soul?
Hmm, that's a really deep question.
I know. I know. I'm famous for these crazy questions that we could sit here all day talking about, right? Learning the language of soul. That's the subtitle of our book, you guys. And um, it means something different for everybody. That's why I love these books so much. So, Christine, no pressure. Like, you get to go first on this. What does it mean to you?
To me, I could only speak for myself. The language of my personal soul is love and being connected to that love and all the layers in which that love shows up and how that love evolves over time, over the course of my life through my experience, and how I connect to it and how I can connect to that aspect in other people. And something that I think I've worked on throughout my life is just the fantasy of love looks a particular way, but it really doesn't. It actually grows and evolves. Love for me, when I was in kindergarten, doesn't look the same for me when I'm 20 and when I'm 40 and probably when I'm 80. The experience of that connecting to it and how I hold that context of love and how I see other people and be with other people is going to change and hopefully expand and broaden over time. So that's the language of my soul. And if that speaks to people who read the book, then that's great.
I love that. I love the way that you kicked off that question. All right, Atlantis, your turn. So, what's the most important thing you want people to know about the language of their soul?
That it's a different experience for everyone. So your soul is not my soul. But when I heard the question, I had to laugh because I have a very whirly brain. I'm dyslexic and neurodivergent. And so my brain is literally just always sort of spinning around and observing itself and observing other people. And so I just had to laugh because my soul is the part of me that's essentially sitting on the marble throne with the two panthers, the ascended ultimate self, just watching me and my mind spin around, going, well, yep, there she goes. There, okay, you can think that too. But for me, my soul is the place that's quiet and has no judgment and is just watching and observing both myself and other people. And I observe myself be insanely afraid of things. I see myself be joyful in things. My soul just watches all of these things all the time. And there are moments because there is an awareness for me. There's an awareness that this is my brain spinning around, and there's an awareness that there's sort of like this presence, this very, for lack of a better word, it always feels like very queenly, Mother Mary, benevolent white light going, oh, that's adorable. You think that that's important. That's fabulous. Are you still afraid of things? Okay. Eventually you won't be, but it's fine. It's like it's all good. It's just this sort of dichotomy between those two places, but the language always is the same. When I hear the words, I love you, I accept you, I see you. I know that that's my soul because I know that it comes from a place of no ego. There's no judgment, there's no condition. There's no you have to act a certain way or you're bad or you're good or you're getting an award or you're getting punishment. I know that my soul is always talking to me in this very kind, benevolent sort of, again, like a queenly, matriarchal, motherly way, and saying that it's okay.
I like that point about the language is always the same. I feel it in love language, and I feel it in joy language, and mostly those things are felt in my body. So the language for me is like a felt sense, and it's always expanded instead of, we talked about this contracted feeling. And in another interview, we talked about that discernment is everything. It's golden nugget of awesomeness, right? To be able to feel those things. Um, okay, so Atlantis, as you know, travel is transformational for so many reasons. So, what I want you to do is inspire us with one of the powerful moments that you remember from Egypt.
Um,
There were many, I know.
there were many, and some of them are more tender than other ones, and some of them are, I think, I'm a big fan of travel. You don't know the world until you travel. You don't know someone else's culture, language, food, perspective until you travel. You can't really, I think, understand the world until you travel. I'm just a huge fan, no matter what, like spend money on travel because it will expand your awareness into what it's like to be a human in different places on the earth. And so for me, I have a strong connection to Egypt. I open up an Egyptian temple in my mind when I work on my clients, which I've been doing for 14 years. I kind of thought everybody just had a place that they opened when they did healing sessions. And it wasn't until years later that I had a client say, I can see what you're doing, and that is a real place. That was your favorite healing place. And I found that place. It's in Dendara, and there was a healer's sort of little village next to Dendara, which is a temple to joy and to love and to Queen Hathor. And I went there and I went in there and I had a full body tingle, chill, truth bump, like lasers coming out of my heart about being there. It's exactly what I see when I open it up. And I could see what it used to look like, what it did look like. I could see the walls. And it was just this, of course, I was sobbing, and Julianne, who is a living angel, if you ever get to meet Julianne, appeared out of nowhere and just came over and hugged me, and it just broke me open. Now, this is an experience I've had over and over. I've been there in my mind and I could see it, but to be there physically, to travel to it and bring the physical memory into that past life memory is something that it's not only life changing, but I feel like over all my lifetimes, I will always come back to that moment where I somehow was able to reconnect so many things physically, spiritually, mentally, evolved as a healer and full circle. So, yeah, I highly recommend travel. And
Awesome.
Christine was actually there. She knows where it is because she came with me. So, believe it or not, of all the authors you could have interviewed me with, Christine was actually there. She knows where I'm talking about.
I was privileged to have that experience and to witness you inside of your temple. It was really beautiful, incredibly moving.
We all had so many amazing moments. It is hard to only talk about one, but Christine, how about you? Give us one of your moments.
Oh my God, how many?
I know.
Um, one of them was I've told many of my people after coming back from the trip, but it was the church where the Holy Family stayed. I think we were in Cairo, and there was this pillar that was standing in the middle of the church, and I think it was like 1967 that one of the popes had witnessed that there was blood seeping out of the pillar. And so you walk into the church, and there's a glass that's kind of protecting it. And I think the group had left the church, and I had this urge to be like, well, what would happen if I just touched the top of the pillar where there's not glass around? I want to really connect with this energy. And the minute that I put my hand on it, it was like my hand felt like electric burning fire. And about 20 seconds later, I just felt this overwhelming urge to just drop to the ground in prostration and reverence. It was like there was a part of myself that had witnessed like God in the most direct way. I don't even, and it was like involuntary, just tears just streaming down my face for hours. I couldn't stop. And I see beyond the words. I don't even know what to make of it, but it just altered me. I think it was just like one of the most profound moments I'll probably remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah, oh my gosh, for sure. Yeah, beyond words were a lot of the moments that a lot of our authors experienced, um, me included, approaching the Hasheput, I think I'm saying that right, temple at sunrise and turning around to see the entire temple and the cliff that it's held in, cliffs, golden with that light, and imagining what it must have been like to stand there. And so, you guys, I'm a gal that doesn't really sit here and talk to you about my past lives. I don't have visions like healers talk about. I don't really have a lot of that happen to me, but I dabble and I love to think about it, and I'm curious and I'm open. And that day, I standing there was someone else, and I could feel that someone else in me, with me, whatever that was, right? And I just play with experiences like that. It is hard to talk about them. The words don't do that justice. In the moment that you have those experiences, the voice that goes, "Oh, you're a crazy ass, Laura." Like, what are you even talking about, right? And so I have to kind of quiet her so that I can feel the goosebumps, so that I can feel the experience, right? And so I know that all of us had so many different kinds of those experiences while we were there. um Christine, you know brave healer authors have dedicated their lives to this healing journey. You are one of those amazing people, and I'm so grateful and honored to be on this path with you and everybody in this project. You all practice awareness at a level that impresses me every single day. Awareness is everything. So I was wondering if you could talk about this for our listeners. On a day when everything feels impossible and overwhelm is kicking in, share a simple practice for us that helps you, that also might help our listeners.
Well, I always think the key thing is to never lose yourself, to any outside circumstance, to anything else going on. And it's the practice of all the different ways that we can be able to access and connect to that self. So in my chapter, the exercise that I've written in there is like a practice that the reader can do to, how do I connect with my breath? How do I bring awareness back into my body? How can I really feel and be with all the nuanced ways that this particular life energy is showing up in me, whether it's frustration, overwhelm, judgment coming from my head. Maybe I'm feeling a different experience in my body that maybe my head is having. And how do I be with all those different aspects in some way where I can just be present and it's not that I have to change, fix, or try to do anything, but just being with it in itself is profoundly changing. And the more that you do it, the more powerful I think it becomes. And I think that that's a key thing.
Key for sure. These are the ninja moves, you guys. These are the awareness golden nuggets that, Christine just dropped a huge one. And the practices sound so simple, but they're so profound. And I think What a great way to kick that question off. All right, Atlantis, you're going to close out the party today. What's that practice that you want to offer our listeners when the day is just one of those days?
So I think of it as like a dial, right? So it's like the volume. Is the volume like the overwhelm of volume 1, 5, 10, something like that? So if it's a volume 1, if I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed, the first thing I do is I get irritated with myself because I know I'm the only one who overwhelmed myself. And I have that awareness that I gave too much or did too much or I'm too tired. So I just take a deep breath and I breathe out as long as I can. In other words, it's just like, and that brings my nervous system back into balance where I can choose what I want to do instead of feeling triggered. If it's more of a level 5, then I will just bring my fists up and just hum as loud as I can because it's like a little massage for my heart. But it's also like moving the energy, and it's just like, and I can feel it's like that volcano coming up. And if it's a level 10, I leave the situation, whatever it is. And if I can, I either get to my car or I get to a river, like into the woods. And I imagine that I'm putting my hands into the lava of the earth because I'm so irritated that that's the only thing that will properly connect with the emotion that I'm feeling. And I imagine my hands pulling it up into where I can feel the lava. And then I put my head up and I scream bloody murder until I have no breath left in my lungs. And normally at that point, I'm like, and that feels better. And then I go back to the situation. And it's really because I have that awareness all the time. I know when it's coming, so I can usually bring it down. But I also always allow myself in the moment to be as human as possible. I don't intellectualize my emotion. Like, I'm having that emotion. I'm not going to sit there and say, you shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't be overwhelmed, whatever, like that. So the first thing I do is have a little temper tantrum and, like, oh, come on. Like, I just turn back into a 9-year old because I just need a moment. Like, I literally just need a moment. Just a little emotional, boom, a solar flare. I allow the emotion to come in and out and then kind of compose myself back into my human matriarch, and then choose. But I think the key is you're human, you have emotions, you have a body. Let your body work through the emotions. And then when the emotional energy is released, come back and choose because this is a free will university here on earth. It's all about free will. There's just choice and consequence. What did you do? Now what? And it's just over and over and over. So I like to try and just be a little gentle with myself and allow myself to have every emotion that comes up and then just watch it come and go.
I love that. I've been practicing, I feel like I've been practicing next levels of that in the worst triggers because I think both of you would agree that like it seems like the deeper we dive on this journey, the harder that trigger becomes. Our upper limit, we kind of smash up against it again, even though we feel like we've dedicated a lifetime to this practice. There it is again. And what's in it for us at that point, right? What's the possibility there is the question I keep asking. And it always comes back to what you are both saying about this. It's like, you got to watch it, you got to allow it, you can feel
Mhm.
it fully, you can just notice. And if you can step out of that judgy thing that happens up here, it is going to shift sooner, rather than attaching so hard and constricting around it and like making it mean anything. But
Mhm.
again, you guys, they really are, nuggets of awareness that are going to take whatever is happening to another level. Christine, Atlantis, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So maybe you guys are curious about something that we talked about today, or you have a question, or you just want to continue the conversation. Please drop down into the show notes because I have Christine and Atlantis hooked up with their links there. Explore what they are up to because it is amazing and a lot. And this is way more than just a cast of authors in a book. This is a generous, powerful community who is waiting for you to reach out and get the support that you need. I know that that's one of the things that I'm most excited about with our books is the community behind them. And of course, you're invited to the book launch party. So we're going to be gathering with all of the authors of Love Initiation on February 14th. Why not do it on Valentine's Day for the love book, right? We're going to be dropping some wisdom and inspiration. That's going to be at 10 a.m. And some info is on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I've got you hooked up down below with that as well. If you happen to be listening to this interview anytime after that date, then hop over to Amazon, because that means the book is ready and live for your purchase. And lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.